let's keep the applause going here for Little Feat, everybody.
All right.
Thank you guys all for being here. It always feels hard to introduce a band who has like one of the greatest intros to a live album ever. So, you know, you got to keep the energy up here and everything. Yeah, that was good. You guys are great groupies here. Let's start by talking about this amazing new album you guys have here. I know it's been a few years since we've had a full album of original music from you. We had the Great Blues album, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here. But Strike Up the Band, I know it was a long time coming, and in a lot of ways is the beginning of, I think what Scott told me when I talked to him for Relics was Little Feat 3.0, which is feels like a nice introduction here. So, Bill, do you want to talk about when you guys first started working on this set of songs and kind of your initial goals and the decision to kind of write some original music here for Little Feat?
Well, from the get-go, which is, what is it, 5 years ago now, or six years ago, 6 years and counting. From the get-go of getting Scott Sherrard into the band, and shortly thereafter Tony Leone, the idea was to have new material. I mean, what is Little Feat but songs? And we have our catalog of songs, but you want to add to that. I don't need to go out and prove I can play Dixie Chicken any more than Sam Clayton, Kenny Gradney, or Fred Tackett over there. So we wanted to have new material, but we had to be patient about it. And through management and whatnot, we had a built-in, let's do Waiting for Columbus first. Oh, I'd fought that idea for years. But we went out, it seemed like a good time to try it. And Scott Sherrard stepped into some rather large shoes, which is Lowell George. Forget Little Feat, I mean, they're big feet, right, Scott? And, but he magnificent. And we were playing songs that we hadn't probably played in a long time. Mercenary Territory was one of them. So when you have the acumen to play that depth of material, doesn't mean you can write it, but I was confident we could. I had 20 songs I'd written with Robert Hunter. We put one on this record. So that was our strength. It has always been Little Feat's strength, is a collision of ideas that come together in some sort of miraculous fashion. And that's what you write for. You're not looking for conformity, you're looking for things that excite us, and if we're excited about it, it's going to excite you.
Woo! Yeah. Well, you know, I want to dig into, you said so many amazing things there, and as you mentioned, working with Robert Hunter, of course, there's a song on this record, and you have a long history with him. When you guys decided you're going to make this record, you know, you work with a variety of people, some new friends, some old friends, you know. What was the kind of initial goals in terms of these songs? As you mentioned, you just played Waiting for Columbus, one of your classic records. Was there a decision to kind of revisit any particular period in the band's history? Were there certain kind of songwriters that you've gravitated towards that helped draw out elements of the band's history that you could talk to?
Well, not personally. I mean, because every canvas is different. But you don't want to be so far off the map that people go, what does it sound like? I always brag that Little Feat can play Happy Birthday and you'll know it's us, right? But you want to go too far out on a ledge. So I'll take the very first song, which I had the pleasure of writing with Tony Leone here.
Yeah.
And Scott Sherrard. And it's called 4 Days of Heaven, 3 Days of Work.
Yeah.
I came back to this city, to New York, to show it to the guys. And when people at my house, I live in Montana, and when we recorded it and people come to my house to hear it, the very first thing, through smiles and like enthusiasm, they say, that sounds like Little Feat. I go, yes, it does. It's got that slow groove, right?
Yeah.
You know this is the thing. How would you describe that?
Well, after the intro, the way it slides into that slinky Delta voodoo
Yeah.
gumbo.
That's him, officer.
Right there.
Am I making myself clear?
Your fingerprints are all over the little feet. We're great here. No, Scott. We mentioned a few minutes ago that it's been about 6 years since you joined this band originally as a sub here, and not to start with too heavy of a conversation here, but you joined at a period of transition, to say the least. Can you talk a little bit about your initial call to kind of first be a sub for the band, and that day when you first joined, which was one of the most defining days in the band's history, and that's saying a lot.
Interestingly, Mike, it was 6 years ago yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. And you were playing the same area of the country.
And I know that because it was the same day that Paul Barrere passed away. I was called to, I was actually subbing for Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams. Technically, they couldn't make the last 2 shows of a run. And, the guys found out in the bus on the way over for my first time meeting everyone but Bill. And it was a really emotionally charged day and performance. And I don't know, it was one of those moments at the end where I felt like we had already been through something. And then, of course, the succession after that was the pandemic. And then, we brought Tony in during the pandemic with a remote recording of Long Distance Love. That's not an easy audition, everybody.
Thanks to your dad. Thanks to your dad. Locking you in the room.
And then what happened? It's just like one thing after another. We changed management, and we finally got back on the road. As Bill said, then we did the whole thing of playing the Waiting for Columbus album. Although I should mention our first rehearsal, this addresses a couple of the things you brought up. Tony and I had spent the pandemic studying these YouTube playlists of bootlegs of the band. Now, we were raised on this music, okay? So we thought we knew all of it, but then we found all these YouTube bootlegs and started checking out all these old set lists and arrangements and stuff. And we went to the first rehearsal. We were both like, check this out, guys, check this out. And it's kind of been like that ever since. Even 4 Days of Heaven, like when we were writing that tune, I remember just having the idea to put the capo on the first fret because of Lowell's tunings that he'd use. Yeah. And it puts the song in B flat, which is a very Little Feat thing to do. Most rock bands don't play in B flat. And that's because Lowell's guitar was tuned to A, and if you slap a capo on the first fret, it's B flat. So there were all these little things that we spent that whole year off getting ready to eventually do Waiting for Columbus, and then, so it's been one thing, and then the blues album, and we can talk about everything else, but everything has been a succession of steps.
While we're talking about that, when we were lucky enough to interview you for Relics, you said something that really struck me, is that you were in a lot of ways a second generation fan of both Little Feat and the Allman Brothers, and of course you have a long history with Greg and played in his band and wrote songs with him. And I think you said that you the same summer saw the revived Little Feat and the revived Allman Brothers in the late 80s, early 90s. And can you talk a little bit about that experience coming in, watching these bands kind of reclaim their catalog in a lot of ways, and then being part of both those bands and not only helping write material, but also bringing some of these songs back into the repertoire?
Yeah, well, I was raised by a musician and in a house that always was the band house. But when I was about 13, I saw the Allman Brothers and these cats. And it's just, my house was like Coltrane, Muddy Waters, Hank Williams, Bob Dylan, Jimmy Reed. That was the Bible. But when I saw these cats, it was like it was all getting played at once. Plus Hunter S. Thompson and Mad Magazine. I said, Yahtzee, this is my stuff right here. I got to start a band. It was probably like when my dad saw the Beatles, or something like that, And then he saw Dylan, and he sold all his stuff and got an acoustic guitar. So it's like those revelation moments, Yeah. And I always say that then I went on for the rest of my career to try to put this band together over and over again, and I finally had to join it to be satisfied.
Let's get an applause for that.
And I'm very satisfied.
Yeah. No, we touched on this for a second ago, but in between kind of this beginning of Little Feat 3.0 and this new album, you guys had Sam's Place, this awesome album. I think we have the T-shirt right there. It's awesome. Everyone could get a copy here. Now, of course, blues has always been part of this gumbo DNA that you guys have referenced here. Can you talk a little bit about your decision to not only do an album of these amazing blues songs, but also, Sam, you've sung with the band for so many years, but I think you're the lead singer on all these tracks, kind of stepping up to that frontman role on this album.
Yeah, well, Billy had talked about us doing like a couple of songs, but it was so magic in the studio that before we knew it, we had 9 or 10 done, and they were saying, "Look out, man, you're gonna win a Grammy. I said, "Bullshit, man, I ain't winning." But just pushing through, and the way these players are now, it's just a solid thing, man. I mean, it just came very easy in the studio, and it's been easy to sing the songs because you got good writers. Yeah. Good choices. Yeah. And we're going to try again this year. I don't know what they're talking about us, but we're trying.
You heard it here first, folks.
We'll be there.
Well, you mentioned, great writers and this great song section. Talk a little bit about choosing the material that you guys had for that album, which, felt very in line with everything you've done before, but also a little bit of a left turn in the best way possible.
It's you, Scott.
Well, I mean, as soon as I started playing with you guys, Bill had brought up this concept of doing this record with Sam, and I know we were all rallying behind it, and we were just running stuff at sound checks, throwing out tunes in the back lounge, right? I mean, Tony, we'd be hanging back there, right, and just playing a bunch of different.
Yeah, I mean, I seem to remember a lot of sitting in the back lounge and Sam kind of sifting through different Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf tunes, going through what might be some good choices for the blues record, and then Bill had some great ideas as well, and then at one point we hit up Bonnie for a suggestion, right?
Well, it's funny you should say last minute things, because that tune that Bonnie picked to sing on,
Yes.
Long Distance Call, it was maybe the last day or the second, I think it was the last day of recording in Memphis at Sam Phillips. I came down in the lobby. You remember this? You were there. And Sam was listening to the Muddy Waters track in the lobby.
Right.
And we'd been doing it as part of a medley. Mm-hmm. But then I said, well, what if we do an acoustic version of that? Remember that?
Well,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
had listened to the Muddy Waters folk singer version.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like upright bass and acoustic guitar. And we started thinking, what if we try to come up with a different version of this arrangement?
That's the ones Bonnie sang on. The one
Right.
she suggested that we
Yeah.
play was "You'll Be Mine."
You'll be
Yeah.
Right. That's,
We thought she was going to want to get on that one, but then she got on the acoustic song.
and I think
She heard
initially
that, jump on that.
didn't somebody say didn't somebody suggest Wang Dang Doodle, and she
No, she doesn't
cut
like
that
that.
one down?
She doesn't like
Yeah,
that.
and
I
so
always loved that song. We did it with Sean Murphy, so that's hiding out there. And look, this is a great part of this conversation, because not everything that goes down in this band or in anything in life is always like, yeah, I like vanilla ice cream. Well, hey, what about chocolate? I mean, it just, things happen. But Wang Dang Doodle, we kicked the hell out of it, and so not everybody's going to dig it, but I think Little Feat is one of those groups too that just confounds the notion of trying to come up with something that everybody's going to enjoy.
Yes.
You don't want to have 10 million people digging this band. That's vanilla shit, right? That's why we don't attract those kind of crowds. It's not like a way to, I'm not knocking anybody. I played on a lot of records with people that sell millions, and I love those songs.
But we love our people, though.
Yeah.
Our songs.
We do, and they're right here.
Thank you.
I always, that quote that Lynn gave before, your favorite band always applies to you guys. You've influenced so many people, and of course you guys have taken so many different styles and genres and scenes and made it your own. As you said, you could hear a song, whether it's Happy Birthday or whatnot, and it feels like Little Feat. The blues record really did get you guys back into the studio, and of course then the next step naturally was an album of new material. Talk a little bit about choosing your producer, who has worked with a lot of amazing people, especially in the kind of modern Americana and kind of outlaw country scene, as well as some bands, Court of the Relics world, like Fish, and kind of what he brought to the table and kind of the feel of that, which had a real live energy to it, at least from my perspective.
you guys remember who suggested him? I think it was Brian Penix.
Yeah.
Yeah, our manager, Brian Penix, suggested Vance Powell. And Vance, when I was listening to, I mean, was it Chris Stapleton is one of the guys he's worked with. Mickey Raphael is a friend of mine who works with Willie Nelson, plays harmonica. He's in Chris's band. I just thought that when I was looking at the breadth of material and artists that he'd worked with, he would be perfect for us. There was a group from not South Africa, but from Africa, the Saharan Desert, and I can never remember their. Yeah, I can't pronounce the name. Tinawarwan, that's right.
Tinarian, yeah.
And he was out in the desert recording with those guys, and I thought, well, that's the cat I want to record us. He has that sense of sound. I came into the studio one afternoon at Sputnik, which is Vance's own studio there, and they played me this one track that Tony had been in there playing percussion and drums and overdubbing on, and there was a box of percussion that.
Big toy box about this big.
Put your mic on there, brother.
Sorry. Yeah, so it was a big toy box about yay big that was just full of shakers and tambourines and.
You
and
dropped it on the ground.
Yeah, and I started dropping it on beats 2 and 4 through the whole song as
That's
like
incredible.
a big giant shaker.
That's the idea of being loose, having fun, you know?
They let me
Nobody
do
should
it.
tell this band how to play music, for God's sake. I mean, God, yeah, tell me where to find middle C. Tell Scott where an E chord is. We don't need that. We need somebody that's going to allow us to have fun, that understands maybe 3 or 4 iterations before I come up with anything, that this is what we ought to be doing. That was Vance Powell, and that's why we worked with him. I hope we do it again. We'll see.
That's amazing. There's an amazing mix of people who contributed to this record, either on the songwriting side or guest appearances or both. I just wanted to talk a little bit about your guys' connections with some of them, starting with Charlie Starr, who, while we're talking about kind of the Southeast and Nashville, which I know is kind of a new area for you guys to record in. How did he enter the mix, and can you talk a little bit about writing with him? I know he's done a great job of kind of bridging the gap between scenes and generations and songwriting styles recently with a lot of different people.
Well, he's a friend of Scott Sherrard's, first and foremost. I think that's how I came.
Yeah, I met him through Greg Allman. If you guys remember when Greg sang on that Blackberry Smoke record, and then, Charlie lives in Atlanta, so when we played Macon, he'd come down and sit in. And he's a lovely, lovely guy. He just played with us in Woodstock, too. Came and did a gig with us as a special guest, and, Charlie and Bill, how did you guys meet? Was it through Penix, or was it through me?
I guess through you, actually.
It might have been, yeah.
I just called him up and said, hey, what's up? And he was...
I think that is how that happened.
He's such a lovely person.
Yeah, he's great.
And we actually started the writing process by coming up with titles, right? So he had one called Bayou Mama, and I went, yeah, okay, let me hear what that sounds like. He sent this little demo, and he'd written basically the whole thing except for the bridge, so I came up with a bridge part for it. But I had a song which we still need to, we recorded a little bit of it, but we need to nail it. It's called When the Thunder Rolls. And it's a great piece. And so we have 2 songs, but we're going down to Mexico with Charlie and his band, Blackberry Smoke, in December. And that should be a fun ride. But he's intense, and I mean in the best form of the word. He's a band guy, too. We were talking about the thing we were talking about earlier, which is you're not going to get 100%. Hey, yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, when I played Atlanta for these guys back in the day, it was like, huh? They were like, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't like it, but nobody was enthusiastic. And he said that happened to him like several times in his band. So it's not a matter of that. It's just we're a team of brothers up here, man. And everybody speaks their mind. They have weight in what they say. And sometimes we just want that simple, hey, dude, I love you. And it ain't going to fucking happen. So
A big hug, everybody, yeah. You can hug it out. No, I think that's true. I mean, you guys, have all individually have such amazing resumes, but when, you come together as a band, you're a true band where everyone not only has their, their footprint on the songs, but the performances as well, and everything here. And it's amazing that as you guys have explored so many different permutations sonically as well as lineup-wise, here we are. There's a full band up here on stage who just finished up most of their year touring, but has a lot more to look forward to.
Well, when you talk about the Grammys and what the significance of that means,
Yeah.
you could center on anybody in this group. I want to center on Kenny Gradney for a second. This gentleman here not only plays the hell of the bass, by any stretch,
Applause, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Les grands.
he is unique to the way he plays the bass, with the way he picks the notes and where he literally picks the rhythms that he plays. There would not be a Time Loves a Hero song if it were not for Kenny Gradney, because he came with a bump, doo-doo, ba-doo-doo. I want him to talk about it, but I want to start him talking about it, which is his family. His father, an amazing man, a producer, made a lot of things happen, and this is why Kenny Gradney has the depth that he has as a human being and a musician, which always don't combine. But man, talk about your dad and just your upbringing a little bit, if you don't mind.
My father in the 40s and 50s produced and tour managed for the Coasters, Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, all different kinds of artists, And they would all come through the house, the Cufflinks and all of them as a kid. I would just see these people all the time. And my father came from Texas with Johnny Otis, who as a little boy I thought was my uncle, because him and my dad were always together, and they acted like brothers. And my dad helped him put the Barrel House Rock together, the TV show that was on in the 50s. And I just grew up in the whole scene. I remember sitting in a car, 5 years old, and looking through this plate glass into a club, and Charles Brown is on piano, my dad's in the front chair, and he's looking at Charles Brown, because and he's looking past Charles Brown, and I'm sitting in the car, and he's staring at me, so if anything happened, he'd just come out. But back those days, nothing happened. And funny, I ran into Charles Brown. Years later, he was touring with Bonnie Raitt, and they played up in California, in Los Angeles, at the Universal Amphitheater. And I went in there, and he was sitting with Bonnie, and I introduced myself, and he goes, "Mike Gradney bought me my first Cadillac." Bonnie's jaw dropped. He went, "What?" Yeah, so that's my dad.
That's awesome. I mean, you just mentioned such an amazing, historical mixture of people there. I mean, that's amazing. It's like it's like the All Music Guide right there. I mean, how did that experience growing up in the environment influence just the way you think of being a team player when it comes to a band like Little Feat or the other amazing work you've done?
I personally started playing in bands when I was 13. The guys I grew up with, I was in the 6th grade with Roland Batista. If you don't know who Roland Batista is, he was in Earth, Wind & Fire, Hubert Laws, Ronnie Laws. He passed away some years ago. We were kids together. And then my cousin moved into the neighborhood, who is Al McKay, who was in Earth, Wind & Fire, and wrote Best of My Love, and was in Sammy Davis Jr.'s orchestra. And we grew up playing, and he put a bass in my hands and said, "This is how you, major chord, minor chord." And this is how I started. And I won one, yeah. We won a TV show, Battle of the Bands, when I was 15. And we took second place because we didn't want to win it, because my dad had a record label and we didn't need a record contract. Second place was $1,500 in Fender equipment and $1,500 in savings bonds. So we did really well. And the next year, I auditioned and got in Ike and Tina Turner when I was 16. And it just went from there.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Well, I think that you touched something that's so important to your guys' DNA is that you guys have all done so many different things over the years, and when it comes together, it's uniquely you. But if it wasn't for all these other experiences you had and bringing it back to the band, I think that's what makes you guys so unique in your original music and everything.
Well, thank you, Mike. And I would direct a question towards Fred Tackett down there on the very end for that very conversation. This guy's played with, I played on a lot of sessions, let me tell you. I think Fred has probably played on at least as many and probably more. But his pedigree is phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination. Where'd you?
Yeah, Fred, why
This is for a guy who started out in Oklahoma at a university at the Oklahoma. Tell him about that business of we're sitting with Jeff Hanna from Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. He goes, how'd you wind up in L.A., Fred?
Oh, wow. I was playing a 6-night-a-week club gig in Oklahoma City. None of those exist anymore. It used to be you'd say a Holiday Inn band, and you meant like a band that played 5 nights a week and was kind of like just played cover songs. Because every Holiday Inn in the country had a club and a band, and none of them exist anymore. But I was in a golden time in probably 1968, 67, excuse me. I came to Los Angeles in 1967 with a group of Filipino entertainers called the Highbrows. And I was playing in Honolulu, Hawaii, and these two guys come running into the club. I had just played an instrumental version of Ode to Billy Joe, which was out and very popular. And these guys came in and they said, what was that song you played? And I said, Ode to Billy Joe. And they went running out of the club again. Then later they come back, and the guy invited me. He said, something I want to talk to you about. I'm staying at this hotel across the street. So I told the other guys in the band, hey, cats, I'm going to score, man. These cats are from L.A. We're going to score tonight. And I go over there and knock on the door, and this guy says, my name's Jimmy Webb. I said, Jimmy Webb, you're the songwriter we've all been talking about, because he had just had Up, Up, and Away in My Beautiful Balloon, and he had, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, 2 totally different songs, And anyway, through meeting him, he brought me to Los Angeles, where I met my wife now, who happened to live next door to Lowell George, And so she brought Lowell over to the house, and he was sitting on the floor playing the sitar, all dressed in white. And I said, "Hey, Lowell, man, we could we could tune that sitar and guitar and play some like psychedelic music." He was, "Oh no, I only play sacred Indian music." And 2 weeks later, he was in the Standells doing Dirty Water. So. Jimmy Webb and I said, man, this is a guy whose humor we can work with. And we became fast friends. And this was years before Little Feat, And so I was very lucky to meet Billy when he came to town, and Roy Estrada and Paul Barrera when they got him in the band. So I met all these guys and knew all these guys, and they were like my closest friends many years before I was able to join the band.
So please give applause to that.
Up that.
Did you watch the, as you said, you joined later, but you had a long history with these guys individually. Were you watching their journey from the sidelines there before you were in there?
Oh yeah, I had played, we used to trade songs over at Jimmy's house, and Lowell and Jimmy and I were playing each other tunes, and Lowell was walking around singing, "If you'll be my Dixie chicken, I'll be your Tennessee lamb." That was the only thing he had, and he just kept saying that over and over. And I played a demo of the song "Fool Yourself" for him, and he said, "I'll have that one," and he put it on the Dixie Chicken record, So that was like my first, I got to go and play acoustic guitar with the guys on that particular song, and that was my introduction to the band,
Amazing, amazing. Speaking of kind of scenes meshing and these amazing songwriters and stuff, on the new record you have, as you mentioned before, a Robert Hunter collaboration. I know you have had a long history with him, and towards the end of his life, wrote over 20 songs together. How did you guys first connect? Can you talk a little bit about the way you guys wrote music together, and of course not only this song on the new record, but this kind of well of material that hopefully will see the light of day soon.
Cameron Sears was our manager at the time, and Cameron worked with the Grateful Dead, and he got in touch with Paul Barrera and myself, and he said that Robert Hunter was interested in writing with us. So I said, yeah, let's give it a try. For whatever reason, it didn't jive with Paul all that much, but with me it did. So that's how our relationship began. Now, I'd heard very early on that with Hunter, you don't want to change his lyrics. Or even, one time I go, what if we did this? And he goes, no, that's not. I said, okay, forget it. No, the way I got around that was, I finally said, look, I wouldn't say it like that. You got something else? You go, hang on, because we never met. Right. We did everything through internet. Wow. And so no phone conversations, no nothing, just internet. And I did get invited to a picnic at his house, and then that fell apart. And then he thought, well, maybe we're just doing so well without this. Why don't we just keep writing? Yeah. But yeah, he would send in the lyrics, and I would say, all right, you got 8 lines here, you have 7 lines here, another 8. Is that really 7? Do you want to keep that 7, or do we want to make it 8, 8, and 8? Because I kind of like 7. I go, all right. I'm not trying to write a hit record here. Let's let it fly. So for me, it was a matter of composing. I didn't even look at it so much as writing a song as I looked at it as scoring a song. You know, he's got the visual there. Where do I want to take it visually? It's like scoring a film, right? So letting everything kind of fall in place from the cadence that he had set up. But fascinating stuff, but it really opened me up to how to, I mean, I knew how to write music. I'd written Time Lives a Hero with the guys, and Oh Atlanta by myself, and on. But Robert Hunter was an inspirational chance to really come in at eye level with somebody, which is really, I think for any of us up here, you have to do that. You can't, you might be a fan of somebody, but even with the lives you guys have, I mean, if you really want to connect with somebody, you got to come in at eye level. There's just no other way to do it.
That's very well put. You know, we've seen some of these songs come into the world on records and whatnot. You know, what's the status of the rest of the material? Do you have some stuff there that we might see at some points down the line, or that is?
Yeah, I'm writing a book. It's called Carnival Ghost, and I've got a good. Regalo is the publishing company here in New York. Gretchen Young, she interviewed and did a book with Senator John Lewis. She did some stuff edited with Tiger Woods and his. Who the author was on that book. Her husband, John Baxter, is a great editor. I have a guy I brought in, Gary Bays, who's a great editor. So we're putting all that together. But what I want as an addendum to that book is an album of some of these songs. Paul Muldoon was at the gig the other night. Paul is a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet. We've probably written 7 or 8 songs. And I've got a lot of stuff that is probably not right for Little Feat, but it would be right for something I might want to say on my own. But and these are the opportunities that I think, it's like Sam doing Sam's Place. Yeah. You know, a lot of spokes come out of Little Feat. And that was what it was supposed to be. When Lowell and I were putting this thing together back in the day, it was, what do we need to do this, to do that? Do we need horns? Do we need another keyboard? Do we need another guitar player? What is it that will expand this thing with the notion of the music being the bedrock of what we do? And I know it sounds like, well, yeah, wouldn't that be the case? Yeah, but look at the amount of bands that come up with something and they've got the same thing over and over and over again. So by the time we did Dixie Chicken, for example, which is where most people who know Little Feat actually think of Little Feat because of bringing in Paul Barrera, Kenny Grady, Sam Clayton, The two of them came in from Delaney and Bonnie. They brought in that Southern influence. Well, guess what? We had it too, right? So, but we all blended that. So that's the malleability of Little Feat is what has always interested me. And I want to just, if I may, very quickly address, and the story says what it really is about Lowell. And it speaks to Richie and Paul too. But Jim Louie there was a conference in Aspen, Colorado, years ago. He says, Bill, you're going to be the only musician there. It's all like business people and stuff and promoters and whatnot. So I'm just letting you. I said, don't worry about it, man. I'm cool. I get there and they give me this, lovely introduction. I'm walking up there and somebody in the back of the hall goes, "Is Lowell still with you?" I picked up the mic in the middle of the table. Always. Lowell George will be with us forever, as will Paul Barrere, as will Richie Hayward, as will everybody on this stage. I don't know where the hell this band's going, but we are a band with Sean Murphy, with Craig Fuller. We just saw Craig the other day. It's a club of sorts, but it's been a vehicle for each and every one of us to do what we couldn't do anywhere else. And so we treasure Little Feat based on what it represents and what it is. And it's okay if other people want to keep Lowell George here and us there. That's their prerogative. I think it's a very narrow view, given what Lowell is and what I hope to portray him in my book. I'm not trying to write a caricature of the guy or to build up his death as somebody he was. That was his death. His life is what I was concerned with. What he wrote, even when he was compromised, he still came up with borderline blues. With Down Below the Borderline, with Mercenary Territory, with Long Distance Love. He had 3 songs, I think it was on one of these albums. So, yeah, we're all flawed. He was flawed. He died at age 34, that tells you something. But he was in a band, too. So he was a huge part of it, but he wasn't the whole thing. Paul Barrere, All That You Dream. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff in it. That's why it's a band.
And I think that, your guys' legacy contains multitudes. And, you guys keep going. You have new music. You have new renditions of classic songs. You have new reinterpretations of the styles that influenced you, whether it's Southern music, blues, and other places in between. One of the, we've done a lot of talking about what you guys are working on now. We've done a little bit looking back today. I know that my friend Jesse's making an amazing documentary on you guys. Where are some of the places you've seen your music turn up in the last few years that has been most surprising to you? I know everyone from the 1975s to Dave Matthews has cited you, to Zach Bryan has cited you as a great influence. Where are some of the places that you as music fans and just people out in the world have seen your music that struck you the most?
What's the cartoon that they have Time Loves a Hero in? The Simpsons.
Yeah, wow.
Unbelievable.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Wasn't All That You Dream on the last episode of The Sopranos?
Yes.
The second to last song in the last episode.
Second to the last song.
Before Journey. Yeah.
It's on brand.
Sam, Fred, any moments there that you've experienced this music out there in the world?
Not really, man. I just listen and try to do my best. Try to improvise and come in with what these guys are doing, because they're great influences themselves. So, to hang with them, I have to perform with them.
Yeah.
So I just do my thing as far as that's concerned. I mean, it's bring the funk to the trunk. That's it.
Amen to that. I think we're about to hear some music in a second, but before we do that, I know we have this Blackberry Smoke Festival coming up. What else can we look forward to in 2026, which is coming right around the corner?
It's gonna be nice to tag up with those with Charlie again down there, Charlie's Star. I've never actually heard his band play, so I'm looking forward to it.
Good
And,
point, 'cause I
but yeah, we're just gonna drift through the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
We don't have anything really planned.
none. In January.
That's in January. So cruises next year. There's back-to-back cruises, and
Big Easy, which is always fun.
yeah, Big Easy was cool.
I just remembered the last time I heard somebody do a Little Feat song that blew my mind, and it was a bunch of 13-year-old kids today doing Teenage Nervous Breakdown. And it was like
God, so-
fantastic. These kids up there going, some people like rock and roll. Yeah.
Hey, Fred, you just brought up Tom Jones did Texas Twister.
Tom Jones did Texas Twister.
Are you
Kicked
kidding
it
me?
Too, man.
Yeah.
We're going to be at the New Orleans Jazz Festival next year.
They don't know it yet, but we will. No, we are gonna.
All right, guys, let's hear some music, guys. Let's give a big round of applause for Little Feat, everybody.
No, Z.